meetings. Literally, we've been discussing how we meetings, the general meetings set up, the traditional way of where people gather together, the traditional way where individuals, physically, members are expected to turn up for a meeting. But today we are going to discuss the transitions that have taken, that has come. With change of technology, we expect change of things. And so it is because of digitalization. So today we are going to consider the effects of technology on how meetings are held. We've got to see how the laws and regulations and guidelines on virtual meetings, they've had to change from the physical meetings to address the issues of virtual meetings. So we can introduce this topic by saying that most meetings and conferences today of people, of listeners, see from that now, we've had to move from the traditional way to embrace technology by holding virtual meetings. But as point number one, about laws, regulations, and guidelines, we've got to see how some of these changes have had to take place and the effects of some of the laws that were dictating physical meetings. The way physical meetings used to be held, there are some regulations that were imposed towards physical meetings, guidelines. And so we're looking at the same implications as to how they imply when we hold virtual meetings. So we're going to start by looking at some common themes and considerations found in laws and guidelines related to virtual meetings. Some of the considerations, we're going to look at the first one. We're going to consider, like point number one, part of the laws, regulations, and guidelines, emergency provisions, Emergency provisions. That is clear, emergency provisions. And we are going to say that we are all aware of what happened in the year 2020, the COVID issues, the COVID-19 pandemic. And that taught us, that pandemic taught the whole world, and I think at that point, that's when we had to review the regulations and the guidelines that govern physical meetings. And as the whole world had to embrace a type of virtual meetings. They became very necessary because businesses needed to still progress forward. So we're saying that many countries introduced emergency provisions to allow companies to conduct virtual meetings during times of crisis, or when physical meetings are not possible due to extraordinary circumstances like the COVID-19 pandemic. So you realize an emergency meeting may arise, and maybe the board needs to have a meeting. And like that time in the year 2020, physical meetings were not allowed to take place. So the existence of emergency meetings brought up provisions for virtual meetings. So we can say that technology helped us or helps us in managing emergency meetings. That provision had to be made where you can no longer meet physically, but we can also hold a virtual meeting and discuss matters affecting the firm. So emergency provisions had to make way for the virtual meetings. That's one of the areas. Those are some of the themes and considerations that you're going to look at that found laws and guidelines related to virtual meetings. Emergency, that's number one. Number two, we're going to look at company law. Company law. And under company law, we're going to say that company laws in various jurisdictions have been amended. There were laws that used to say every year, every company must have, a public company must have, a private company must have an AGM on this day, on this month. That was a law, a regulation. And so we are saying had to be amended to allow for virtual meetings and remote participation by shareholders and board members. That's not the virtual meeting or the regulations changes did not only allow people to meet virtually, but also issues that are related to voting. How there is virtual voting on during virtual